The so-called ministers of power not only hold the power of life and death in their hands, but also often evade the royal power. According to the behavior and life outcome of power ministers can be roughly divided into three categories. One is virtuous ministers like Zhou Gong and Zhuge Liang. Although they held great power, they devoted themselves to death and died. They seldom acted like domineering and bullying the emperor, so they often died well. The second is that heroes such as Cao, Lu Yu, and Zhao Quangai ran wildly on the road of power ministers, and eventually replaced the emperor by themselves or their descendants to complete the dynasty change. The third is to be liquidated by the emperor and not end well. There are many powerful ministers like this in history. After all, self-inflation under the blessing of power is a common problem of most people, so virtuous ministers are scarce, and there are only a few powerful ministers who can really change the dynasty, so the powerful ministers who have been liquidated, most of them, even powerful officials such as Huo Guan, Zhang Zhenhan, and Dorgan who have contributed to ZTE or pioneering work, are still liquidated after death, and it is the kind of liquidation that is as glorious as it was in life and as miserable as it is after death, which means overcorrecting. Perhaps it was a retaliatory rebound after the imperial power had been suppressed for a long time, and indeed, the emperor had been oppressed for a long time. And psychologically he also needed to vent his anger. Today, let's talk about the most relieving and thrilling incident of killing a powerful official in history, that is, the killing of powerful minister Yu Wenhu by Emperor Wu Wenliang of the Northern Zhou dynasty. 02. The history of the Wei, Jin, Southern and Northern dynasties is complicated, like a mess. The brief development is shown in the following figure. Yu Wenliang and Yu Wenhu were from the Northern Zhou dynasty, and they were cousins. Who was the founding emperor of the Northern Zhou dynasty? Yu Wenzhou. It is estimated that there are very few people who know the founding emperor, and he has no sense of existence. Why did this happen? It is necessary to briefly review the previous history. In the late period of the Five Husbands, Tuo Bagui, a Xianbei native, established the Northern Wei dynasty in the north. Later, through the relay management of Tuo Bagui and his grandson Tuo Batao, the Northern Wei dynasty gradually unified the north, ending the troubled times of the 16 kingdoms, and the capital of the Northern Wei dynasty also changed from the original Inner Mongolian Zhengle was moved to Pingchen in Shaanxi, and finally Tuo Bahong, Emperor Xiaoan of the Northern Wei dynasty, moved to Luoyang, and implemented a series of Sinicization reform measures, reforms of Emperor Xiaoan of the Northern Wei dynasty, and changed the national surname from Tuoba to Yuan. Later, due to the increasing corruption of the rule of the Northern Wei dynasty and the corruption of officials, the Six Towns Uprising broke out. Since then, the Northern Wei dynasty has experienced civil strife and endless wars. Finally, the regime of the Northern Wei dynasty was controlled by the power minister Gao Huan. Under the control of Gao Huan, the emperor of the Northern Wei dynasty was like a lantern. Three abolished emperors, Yuan Ye, Yuan Gong, and Yun Long, appeared successively. In 534, Emperor Xiao Yuanzi was unwilling to be a puppet, so he went west to Yuanta, a warlord in Guangzhou. Gao Huan therefore changed Yuan Shanjian to be the emperor, and moved his capital to Ye, now Linzhang. This is the Eastern Wei dynasty in history. After Yuan Jiu defected to Yuanta, he was poisoned and killed by Yuanta the following year. Yuanta established Yuan Baoju as emperor and established his capital in Chang'an. This was the Western Wei dynasty regime in history. 03. As a result, the Northern Wei dynasty was divided into the Eastern Wei dynasty and the Western Wei dynasty. But the Eastern Wei and Western Wei did not last long. In 550, Gao Huan's son Gao Yang usurped the Eastern Wei dynasty and established the Northern Qi regime. In the Western Wei dynasty, the regime has been controlled by Yuanta. After Yuan Baoju died of illness in 551, Prince Yuan Qin succeeded to the throne. In 554, Yuan Qin was killed. According to the general historical evolution, Yuanta usurped the throne sooner or later. Yuanta died of illness, and his son Yuanzhi succeeded him as Grand Master and Duke of Ending, and was assisted by his nephew Yuanhu to take power. In 557, with the support of Yuanhu, Yuanzhu accepted the abdication of Yuan Kuo, the emperor of the Western Wei dynasty, and established the Northern Zhou dynasty. He was only 15 years old at the time. Therefore, although Yuanzhu was the founding emperor of the Northern Zhou dynasty, the actual power was always in the hands of his cousin Yuanhu. Since then, Yu Wenhu has embarked on the road of a powerful minister. The conflict between the powerful officials and the emperor was almost inevitable and irreconcilable. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the 15-year-old Yu Wenji to plot to arrest and kill Yu Wenhu, but was abolished and killed. Then, Yu Wenhu supported the cowardly and incompetent Yu Wenju's elder brother Yu Wen'ai to succeed him. However, after succeeding to the throne, Yu Wen'ai showed more and more his political talents and deeds, which of course made Yu Wenhu dissatisfied. 3 years later, Yu Wenhu bribed the chef to poison Yu Wen'ai to death, and then Yu Wen'ai, Emperor Wu of the Northern Zhou dynasty, appeared. Yu Wen'ai was honored as Emperor Wu by later generations, so he must not be a mediocre person. His most commendable achievement by later generations was to destroy the Northern Qi dynasty and unify the Central Plains. But in fact, the scene where he personally killed the power minister Yu Wenhu was also quite thrilling. 04. After Yu Wen'ai succeeded to the throne, he was in a very difficult situation. Yu Wenhu guarded against him everywhere. The imperial court and the court were strictly controlled by Yu Wenhu. Only his younger brother Yu Wenzi and a personal eunuch could be trusted. After succeeding to the throne, Yu Wen'ai learned the lesson of his 2 elder brothers who were abolished and killed, and adopted a strategy of forbearance, which lasted for 12 years. But 12 years have passed, and the world is still covered by Yu Wenhu. Yu Wen'ai is determined to change the status quo, but he is the emperor. No one was available, so Yu Wen'ai decided to do it himself. The general process of things is like this. Because the Empress Dowager was addicted to alcohol, Yu Wen'ai's repeated persuasion was ineffective, so he wrote an article Jugao, begging Yu Wenhu to help persuade the Empress Dowager to quit drinking. Although Yu Wenhu is domineering, he is filial to the Queen Mother, and he also feels that he has a lot of faith with the Queen Mother, so he and Yu Wen'ai went to visit the Queen Mother. When they arrived at the Queen Mother's place, the 2 brothers persuaded the Queen Mother to quit drinking after chatting with each other, and Yu Wenhu took out Jojeo and began to read aloud. Speaking of Yu Wen'ai's past 12 years, it is really aggrieved. Although he is an emperor, whenever he and Yu Wenhu visit the Queen Mother together, Yu Wenhu always sits and chats with the Queen Mother as an elder brother, while Yu Wen'ai is in standing with hands down. It was too late to say it, and when Yu Wenhu was concentrating on reading Jojeo and getting better, Yu Wen'ai slammed a brick on the back of Yu Wenhu's head. Of course it was not a real brick, but a precious jade, and Yu Wenhu immediately fell to the ground, and then Yu Wen'ai's personal eunuch and younger brother Yu Wenzi hacked and killed Yu Wenhu, and a generation of powerful officials died. Then Yu Wen'ai liquidated Yu Wenhu's son and party members, and only then did he truly control the world. 05. There are many ways for the emperor to kill powerful ministers. Why did Yu Wen'ai go through such a dangerous and bloody scene by himself? It's a pity to say, because there is really no one available. Since Yu Wen's death, Yu Wenhu has been in power for 16 years. In view of the resistance of the previous 2 emperors, Yu Wenhu has taken strict precautions against Yu Wen'ai. Yang is still a polished commander. Of course, you need to be careful about traveling for thousands of years. With the lessons learned from the previous 2 elder brothers and the heaven and earth net woven by Yu Wenhu, Yu Wen'ai did not dare to act rashly, and usually pretended to be weak and incompetent, and obeyed Yu Wen's words to relieve Yu Wen's vigilance. Setting the execution site in the Empress Dowager's bedroom and the timing of the execution when Yu Wenhu concentrates on reading the Jojeo aloud, and doing it himself will not only be unexpected, but also prevent leaks and increase the odds of winning. Since the founding of the Northern Zhou dynasty, 2 puppet emperors have been abolished and killed in succession. Yu Wen'ai endured for 12 years and finally killed the powerful ministers with his own hands. Is a hard-working and promising emperor. After eliminating the Northern Qi and completing the unification of the Central Plains, he planned to attack the Xianmu in the north and destroy the Chen dynasty in the south. He died of illness at the age of 36, and his heirs were unworthy. The successor Yu Wen'ai was immoral, indulged in pleasure, and handed over all state affairs to his father-in-law Yang Jian. Finally, Yang Jian established the Sui dynasty cheaply. Thank you for reading. If you think it is good, please light up watching. Thank you. Recommended reading. The historical truth behind the jade body Hung Chen. Emperor Han when succeeded to the throne, people don't see pity heaven pity him. From Qi Jinggong's weeping to Chairman Mao sees the day and night. True face of the Jews. The roller coaster of Princess King He's life, the weather vane of the rise and fall of the Jin dynasty. Su Biong and Lu Haisu. In 2011, 2014, and 2018, Beijing Guangxi Auction Company auctioned letters from Sitang Su Biong to Zhou Yang, Secretary of the Party Leadership Group and Vice Minister of the Ministry of Culture at that time. The letters were written on June 1st, June 5th, June 18th, and July 8th, 1953, respectively, and recorded in detail Su Biong's exposure of Lu Haisu. These letters from Su Biong to Zhou Yang not only have extraordinary historical value, but are also said to have extremely high artistic value. It is said that Su Biong's calligrapher Chen Kanyue is also an advocate and practitioner of stele learning style of calligraphy. The power of his calligraphy is full of publicity. This style is similar to the majestic and elegant Chimenming in the Wei stele, and it also melts and casts the pen of seal and official calligraphy, thus showing a strong and ancient beauty. Su Biong, second from left, and Zhou Yang, second from right, celebrate Qi Beixi's birthday. On June 1, 1953, the first and second letters to Zhou Yang. Mr. Zhou Yang. At the beginning of the month, Mr. Yu Jianhua, a Chinese landscape painter, came to the north and learned that East China merged with Shandong Normal University Art Department, Shanghai Academy of Fine Arts and other schools to form East China Academy of Fine Arts, and appointed Lu Haisu as the principal, whose address is in Wuxi. I have some opinions on the principle of Lu Haisu, dare to be Mr. in other words. When Singapore fell in 1942, Lu Haisu returned to Shanghai on a Japanese military plane. His art school never closed during the Japanese occupation, and he himself accepted a pseudonym. In 1945, Chongqing Xinhua Daily reported on Shanghai's cultural traitors, namely Lu Haisu. Zhang Daifan, chairman of the National Artists Association, immediately cleaned him up, saying that Lu Haisu was not a traitor. Suddenly he was appointed as a leading cadre again. From the standpoint of an artist worker, I solemnly lodged a protest. The reasons are as follows. 1. Whether Lu Haisu is a traitor, or whether he was actually spread by Xinhua Daily. Today, we should not confuse right and wrong and use traitors as leading cadres. The Kuomintang reactionaries have done this before. The people's government seems to have no precedent. The Chinese nation is a country that attaches great importance to national integrity. The nation and the people hate Qin Hui and respect Yu Fei is an example. Another example is Zhang Ruodou, a famous calligrapher and painter in the late Ming dynasty. Just because he wrote a stele for the traitor Wei Zhongxian, his works have been ignored for 300 years, not that the works are not good. The integrity of an artist can be compromised, so I was the first to protest. Maybe Lu Haisu was not a bloody traitor when he acted as a traitor. The circumstances are not too serious. Introspection is the most basic manifestation of his understanding of mistakes, but it does not mean that introspection can get rid of traitor charges, wash away traitor crimes, and even reflect on and be promoted to leading cadres. He has any public reflections, taking Yang Ren as an example. Zhou Ziren did not reflect on it, but the people's government did not use him as a leading cadre. In terms of learning, Zhou Ziren is much wiser than Lu Haisu. 2. Lu Haisu has always cheated and plagiarized in art, and his style is extremely bad. Most of his paintings are inscribed by dignitaries and celebrities. Chen Gongbo and others have all written for him, and he relies on this method of gaining fame and fortune, which is something a decent artist would disdain. He also plagiarized other people's works and pretended to be his own creation in order to confuse the people. Hereby attach 2 volumes of Lu Haisu's traditional Chinese painting published by the commercial press. The first volume has a picture of 2 horses, which was copied from a French female animal painter in the 19th century. Rosa Bonheur, intact, and drew the 3 feet of the white horse on a horizontal line, even the basic knowledge of distance, which shows how capable he is. One of the 2 lions is also copied from an oil painting print, and the photo is attached, so you can look at it and it will be clear at a glance. How about wantonly plagiarizing other people's articles without acknowledgement, or translating foreign works without stating the original author's name, but writing your own name? What is not theft? Of course there are no such things as Mao Dun and Ding Ling in our country, and secondly, there are no young writers with ambitions. Only those who are not talented can have such obscene behavior. If international friends know that there are such figures among our leading cadres, what can we say? 3. He has run the private Shanghai Art School for more than 30 years, using the school as a tool for his personal fame and profit, and using it to sell the formalism manipulated by declining international art dealers in Western Europe, which has harmed countless young people. He published a series of his works in Zonghua Bookstore. The so-called paintings of world painters, mostly formalist, included himself, and he also praised Cezanne, the leader of formalism, as the father of modern art in an article in Ta Kung Pao, which affected many young people astray, thus causing chaos in the art world of our country. I have hated formalism all my life and have fought against it countless times. If he is said to have contributed to the establishment of the Shanghai Academy of Fine Arts, it is tantamount to saying that he is right to sell formalism and should be praised. I think no one can agree with this twisted statement. For his private life is extremely corrupt, and he is fond of poker and gambling. He is called running a school, but he is actually an art broker. According to people from Shanghai, after the liberation, Liu Haisuk and his brother-in-law planned to steal state assets. His brother-in-law is the tungsten wire king in Shanghai. He used the convenience of purchasing tungsten wire in Hong Kong for the government to steal a large amount of tungsten wire. The number of tungsten wires is astonishing. A large number of tungsten wires were found in Liu Haisuk's home during the 5 anti-warrants period. Liu's wife fled to Hong Kong fearing the crime. This is obtained from rumors. The actual situation should be investigated. After liberation, everything in China was updated, and Liu Haisuk's despicable style has long been washed away by the times. Unexpectedly, today he was appointed as a leading cadre again, replacing the name of a traitor with the principal of East China Academy of Fine Arts. Lead the art education in the new China with the typical characters of the old society who deceived the camp. I think it damages the prestige of the people's government. I can't help but be afraid of the future of our country's art development. I thought that today we are trying to improve Chinese painting, and such a bad style cannot be allowed to exist. Not to mention the appointment of people with extremely bad qualities like Liu Haisuk as leading cadres. In order to restore the prestige of the people's government, correct the creative style of the art circle, and raise the awareness of the art circle, I suggest that Liu Haisuk should be dismissed immediately. And put Liu Haisuk as a typical character for everyone to criticize. I have been ill for nearly 2 years, and today I tried my best to participate in the teacher training group and the East China branch of the Central Academy of Fine Arts in the discussion with colleagues on painting training. Today, I am writing this long letter again, and I feel very heavy. Sincerely. Salute Su Biong June 1st. On June 5, 1953, second letter to Zhou Yang. Mr. Zhou Yang. In order to express his gratitude for his birthday, Fei Shiwen gave a special painting to Mr. as a reposter. I will send someone to send it to you. Please check it. A few days ago, in order to protest the appointment of the traitor Liu Haisuk as the principal of the East China Academy of Fine Arts, I had an interview with him and wrote a long letter of memorandum, and attached 2 volumes of Luqihua Hua. Now I feel that there is still more to say, and I will say it as follows. Liu Haisuk acted as a traitor. We don't care about the seriousness of his crimes, but it is a fact that he lost his national integrity. This is what we despise the most, the so-called filial son and loving grandson. 100 generations can't change its stain. Furthermore, Liu Haisuk plagiarized other people's works to deceive the people. The evidence is solid. This is a typical incident in order to eliminate the bad style of literature and art. I should persist in protesting to the end. I would like to know, Mr. In addition, the 2 volumes of Liu's paintings were borrowed from the courtyard. Please return them immediately to show your colleagues. Sincerely. Salute Su Biong June 5th. On June 18, 1953, the third letter to Zhou Yang. Mr. Zhou Yang. Last night, my husband talked to me about the plan to order Liu Haisuk to conduct a review. I think that Liu Haisuk's plagiarized works should be published in the art newspaper first, and the art circles should be organized to conduct in-depth criticism. Then ask him to conduct a review. His review must be honest, and must be approved by the art circles and released publicly. Liu Haisuk claims to be a master of Chinese Renaissance art. In the old society, the people have been deceived by him. His bluff and deceit are comparable to those of the beggars among dead souls. If we don't criticize him as a typical example today, we will not be able to expose his true colors. Liu Haisuk arrived in Shanghai at 4 p.m. on May 25, 1943, by a special Japanese plane. On the same day, he expressed his thoughts to the reporter of Xinjia Daily. We are grateful for the hospitality of the AIA authorities, which shows that AIA attaches great importance to artists. Shameless and hateful. Afterwards, he continued to engage in activities of flattering the enemy in Shanghai. I cite Zhou Ziren as an example, not to say that his situation is exactly the same as Zhou Ziren, but to show that they lost their national integrity. Regarding the section about him acting as a cultural traitor, the report of Xinhua Daily is ironclad proof. Zhang Daifan, the cultural leader of the Kuomintang reactionaries, once defended Lu Haisug, referring to the Xinhua Daily rumors, thinking that there will be no similar situation today. If the materials from Xinhua Daily are not sufficient, then what kind of materials are needed to be considered reliable? If talking about Lu Haisug is not considered a traitor, then it is Xinhua Daily spreading rumors. I wonder who would agree to such a distorted statement today. It is an iron fact that Lu Haisug is called a traitor. I must once again point out to my husband that using traitors as leading cadres will damage the prestige of the people's government. I think there is only one principle today: is it beneficial to the people? Is it beneficial to the people to appoint Lu Haisug as the principal of East China Academy of Fine Arts? Can he lead intellectually or artistically? In fact, it is obvious that neither can do both. He is a typical figure of the most decadent bourgeois fame and fortune in thought, and he always plagiarizes other people's works in art. He completely runs counter to Chairman Mao's literary policy or realism. If these views of mine are just his past, how can I ask what new achievements Lu Haisug has today? What new contribution can he make to wash away the stains in his history? In short, I think it is of no benefit to the people to appoint Lu Haisug as the principal of East China Academy of Fine Arts. On the other hand, is there any harm? The harm is great. First, it will damage the prestige of the people's government. Second, in addition to the crime of traitor, there is also plagiarism that is clearly visible to the eyes and ears. Even the technique of plagiarism is very bad. Can such a person lead the art education in New China? Third, it will harm the next generation. Cultivating future generations is one of our most important tasks today. How can this school be headed by a person who is unable to lead ideologically and artistically and who has a bad influence, such as Lu Haisug? Can it be done? The people's government should adopt the principle of preferring shortages to excess in employing personnel, not to mention that today's art circles are not without leading talents. After liberation, we should liquidate Lu Haisug, a liar and sinner in the art world, and instead use him as a leading cadre today. The people's government is calling us to move towards neorealism and Chairman Mao's policy on literature and art. Is Lu Haisug's style 1% the same? Everything about him is everything we have to cleanse. If our government talks one thing and does another, how can we face the truth? Convincing. The spirit of revolution is to be thorough. Do not compromise with evil forces. I have followed the people's government and the Communist Party, and standing in my position today, I should persevere in the struggle and think Mr. can agree. Watching opera with my husband last night, I came back and stayed up all night, because I thought that Peking opera has a great level of attainment. Among my predecessors, I have personally met Tan Xinpiai, Chen Delin, Wang Hongxiao, Yang Xiaolo, and others. Until now, especially since liberation, they can maintain the fine tradition. Yu does not fall, and has the prospect of 100 flowers blooming. In the eyes of Mr. Lu Haisug, the development of the art industry in New China is not particularly important, but in my opinion, there is a lot of emotion in comparison with the use of Lu Haisug. Pulling miscellaneous attachments, fear, sincerity, salute.